Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. In today's lecture, we first will discuss what are standardized coefficients. Standardized coefficients are very useful in regression analysis, and most of the softwares report both normal coefficients and the standardized coefficients. So we want to know what are standardized coefficients. Secondly, we'll discuss what are the steps involved in regression. For example, there must be a theory in the background, then you present your summary statistics, then some graphs, then we perform the regression, then we have post-regression tests. They are all part of the regression analysis. So we want to know also how to present our regression results in a standard way in any research paper or research thesis. So in the end, we'll have a brief review of the steps in regression analysis. First, we'll learn what are standardized coefficients. Basically, standardized coefficients are used because in normal regressions, the units in which the variables are expressed affect the way we can interpret the coefficients or the parameters. You learned different functional forms as well in which the interpretation of the coefficients or parameters changes as the model changes. In the same way, when you change the unit of measurement of the variables, or different variables are expressed in different types of units of measurement, then the regression coefficients of one type of study and second type of study are not easily comparable. So make them comparable, we standardize the variables, and the standardized variables are used in what we call a standardized regression. The parameters that are estimated by regressing a standardized variable on the other standardized variable or variables are called standardized coefficients or beta coefficients. You must know about the z-scores or standard normal distribution. In the same way, if we subtract the arithmetic mean of a variable from the variable's observation and divide by the standard deviation, we get it in a standardized form. For example, x in standard form is equal to x minus x bar over sigma, that is x minus arithmetic mean over the standard deviation. Similarly, if you have a variable y, we'll perform y minus y bar divided by the standard deviation, and that will give us y in a standardized form. If we regress the new standardized variable y on the standardized variable x, in the same way as we do y on x, we run the regression on the standardized variables, then what we get are called standardized coefficients and beta coefficients. In most of the software, the normal coefficients as well as the beta coefficients or standardized coefficients are reported simultaneously. As we standardize the variables, the new variables have zero mean and unit variance. So both the variables x and y will have zero mean, and the variance of both of them would be equal. So it makes the interpretation very easy and makes different regression results comparable. For example, if the arithmetic mean of both of them is 0, and the unit of measure is standard variance is 1, this means that you can interpret the beta coefficient by saying that one standard deviation unit change in x brings beta or b, whatever is the slope, whatever is the name of the coefficient, this much standard deviation change in the dependent variable. As we have depicted or shown in the slide 1, where the variables x are standardized by subtracting the arithmetic mean and dividing by sigma, and the variable y also is standardized by subtracting the arithmetic mean and sigma, which gives two properties, as you are seeing in the slide, that the bar of the new standardized variable x and the arithmetic mean or y standardized bar both are 0. Similarly, the variance of the standardized variable x and the standardized variable y are unit. So it doesn't matter now in what unit of measurement you are expressing the variables, because as you have standardized the variables, the interpretation is comparable now. So you can compare results of two different regressions as well, because they are free of unit of measurement now. In the second slide, you are seeing that we have shown a regression line which can be estimated in usual way, that is the y standardized variable is equal to a plus b into standardized x plus error term. So this is a usual straight line. We can estimate it by usual OLS and see, for example, that the intercept will be 0 in this case. As we stated that the arithmetic mean of the standardized variable is 0. And if you remember, we estimated the intercept in simple regression equation, as, if the intercepts are called A, we define them as equal to y bar minus b times x bar. So as y bar and x bar both here in this case, in this standardized case, are 0, so you get 0 intercept. So you will have no intercept. This is an intercept-free regression. Now again, focus on the interpretation of the beta coefficient, which is a standardized coefficient. Coefficient that is obtained by regressing a standardized dependent variable on a standardized independent variable. So we define it as, or interpret it as, if the standardized regressor increases by 1 standard deviation on average, the standardized regressand, that is the dependent variable, increases by beta standard deviation units. So beta is the coefficient, or b is the coefficient that we estimated by regressing a standardized dependent variable on a standardized independent variable. So as you see, this makes the results comparable, as we always interpret the beta coefficient as the change in 1 standard deviation unit in the dependent variable caused by 1 standard deviation unit in the independent variable. So we forget about the unit of measurement and just interpret the beta coefficient. Now we discuss the advantages and disadvantages of using standardized variables and performing a regression that provides with beta coefficients or standardized coefficients. First of all, you know that when we have different units of measurement, we interpret the coefficients in different ways. For example, the variables can be in thousands, in millions. We can change the units of measurement or scale of the variables. So it may be difficult to interpret or a bit complex. But when we standardize the variables, we have an advantage that we become free from the unit of measurement. So the advocates of standardized regression coefficients say or state that it is better in the way that we are free from the units of measurement and we always interpret the beta coefficient in the same way. So we are not mentioning any unit of measurement. The unit of measurement, in fact, is the standard deviation now, which is standard. But there are some disadvantages. For example, standardization can be misleading. For example, if the distribution is skewed, the errors are not normally distributed, or we have non-normal distributions, then the results of standardized beta coefficients would be misleading, as basically we assume that errors are normally distributed and we have specific distributions. So this means in some cases the standardized beta coefficients also will be misleading. So we have to take care of that if we have normal type of data, then we can easily interpret the beta coefficients. So we need some tests to perform whether we are capable of using standardized beta coefficients in case of this type of data. When we perform regressions, it is necessary that the regression is backed by sense or logic or some kind of theory. We cannot just pick up variables and regress one variable on another variable. So there must be some background theory. For example, when we regress quantity demanded on price or other variables, we have the theory of demand in the background. The theory suggests that demand is a function of price and tastes and income and variables like that. So on the basis of that background theory, we specify our functional form. We specify that quantity demand is a function of such variables. Later we specify it in a form of equation by assuming that the relationship is linear or whatever the relationship is. So there must be some logic or theory in the background. When we spoke of costs of production, like marginal cost and like total cost, all that was based on the cost theory. The cost theory suggests that there is a specific relationship between cost of production and the quantity output. On the basis of that theory, you feel that we can specify marginal cost by a quadratic equation and the total cost by a cubic equation. In some cases, the theory where we feel that the theory suggests that there is an exceptional growth case, we suggest exponential models. So whatever model we specify must be backed by some kind of statement or theory. For example, this will depend on your research question or research statement or problem statement in your research. And that must be based on some kind of theory. You have various theories in the background and they may be contradictory as well, but you have to select one of them based on arguments, and you will base your specification of the regression equation on the theory you are believing in or you are hypothesizing the relationship. So some variables may measure the same things. When you are specifying your regression, you may have 2 or 3 or more variables that in fact are indicator of one single phenomena. This is another problem in regression. So when you have such cases, you must drop the variables except one. For example, if you have 2 variables and both of them are indicator of intelligence, you need one of them. If you have profitability as an independent variable in some equation, return on asset and return on equity both are indications of profitability. They are indicators or proxies. You cannot use both of them at the same time in simple regression. You must use one of them, for example, either return on assets or return on equity. Similarly, if you are basing profitability, if you believe that profitability depends on different types of ratios, like for example, liquidity ratio. So there are various ratios, current ratio, quick ratio. So you cannot use both of them simultaneously in the same regression. You must use one of them. You will either use current ratio or the quick ratio as an indicator of liquidity. So you should be careful about the variables and their collinearity. So you must select, you have to be choosy. But be careful that when you choose variables, don't miss important variables. Don't include the variables that are not much important. You can even change your specification of regression after you view some results. So you can exclude or include variables later. Another thing to be careful is when you perform regression, before that you must think of the interaction terms. If you have a theory that suggests the impact of one independent variable on the dependent variable increases or decreases because of change in some other independent variable, you must think of including interaction terms in your regression. So in step 1, you must have some theory. On the background of that theory, on the basis of that theory, you will specify your functional form. On the basis of your hypothesis and thinking and theory, you will specify the equation that you are going to estimate. And now the step is to include or exclude specific variables. What would be your independent variables? Which one of them are more important? Because as you increase the number of variables, your degree of freedom decreases. You may face some kind of problems like multicollinearity. So you have to be choosy. In some cases, you may not have access to data on those variables. So we have constraints in real life. So practically we cannot include all the determinants of a variable into the regression equation. You may miss some of them, but be careful not to miss very important. How will you know which variables are important and which are less important and which are not important? Again, you have a theory in the background on the basis of which you are specifying your regression equation. So you select the independent variables, and then you think of replication. For example, if you are including liquidity as an independent variable, this is a phenomena. This is measured by specific variables, as I told you, like current ratio and quick ratio. So you want to choose either quick ratio or current ratio. You may perform 2 regressions, one with the quick ratio and second with the current ratio, and compare them as well. This is usual in research. And then you must think of interaction terms. Interaction variables which were the product of 2 variables or more are used when you think or you hypothesize or you have in the theory that the impact of one independent variable changes with the change in state of the second or third or any other independent variable. So these are the basic steps. From theory, you have moved to functional form specification, then you specified an equation based on whether the relationship is linear or whatever relationship is, and then you selected some independent variables, some proxies of dependent and independent variables. For example, you have different phenomena like intelligence. You cannot directly measure it. You have some indicators of intelligence, for example, IQ. So you have to think of all these aspects. For example, you want to think what can measure intelligence. Now, from where you get the idea? You have a review of literature. You read extensive literature. You extensively analyze whatever has been already done in the field, and you get ideas or clues how different researchers and people measured intelligence. So there are many indicators. Some are good, some are bad. Some have to be proven, if they are new, that they are good indicators of a phenomena. So you have to think a lot. And then at the end, you may or may not include interaction terms. So these are the basic steps before regression. So in the end of the lecture, we will again review what steps have to be taken before regression, while we regress the dependent on the independent variables, and we have things to do after performing the regression as well. While performing regression, another thing before regression is to present some summary statistics. You want to know your variables. You want to know the maximum and minimum values. You want to know the averages. You want to know the spread, the standard deviation. You want to see if it is normally distributed or skewed. You want to know about kurtosis. So there are various statistical indicators that you want to know. For example, in the slide, you are seeing that we have used the data analysis tool pack to perform descriptive statistics or summary statistics. You know about the data analysis tool pack. You performed regression in data analysis tool pack. So the window which you are seeing is basically a window when it opens when you click on data ribbon and then on data analysis. So as you know, there are 19 different functionalities of this data analysis tool pack. One of them is descriptive statistics. So you will select descriptive statistics and press OK, and you will be asked about what is the input range. You will select an input range which contains all the variables. There is no question of dependent or independent variable over here. So you have an input range of both y and x variables. So you are seeing B4 to F78. This means about 74 observations from cell B4 to F78. So there are several variables, dependent or independent. And then you have checked labels in the first row. This means when you make a selection of the range, you will include the row which contains the labels or the variable names. Down you may check the new worksheet, so the results will be displayed in new worksheet. So you must check summary statistics to get the summary statistics. If you have given the proper range and you click OK, then you will have a regression result which you are seeing in the next slide, which shows the mean, standard error, median, mode, standard deviation, kurtosis, skewness, range, etc. Many other count, the last one, which is 74. This is the number of observations. So you will present the summary statistics in any research paper or research dissertation. This step should be performed even before you think of regression. When you get some data set or you have collected some data or you are using secondary data, you must know your data and you must tell others also about the data. The brief way is to present a summary statistics or descriptive statistics. So you have seen a lot of statistics here: mean, median, mode, kurtosis, skewness, range, minimum, maximum values, number of observations, etc. But most often you need few of them. If you ask me what are the least outputs that we should give in the descriptive statistics, so you may include the arithmetic mean, the standard deviation, the minimum and maximum value, and number of observations. So in most of the research papers that you see, we provide the summary statistics of these phenomena like mean and standard deviation or variance, and the number of observations, etc. The minimum and maximum values. So we have a know-how of our variable and we try to understand how the variables are related or move. What is the variation in the data? What are the minimum or maximum values? Maybe some variables are strings, say they are based on characters. Some variables are numeric variables. You can perform regression only on numeric variables. So later on you will know about dummy variables as well. So if you have a minimum value of 0 and maximum value of 1, so you will have a binary dummy variable. So the summary statistics presents a general idea of the variables or the data, and it is the first step in your research paper or research thesis that you yourself know the data and you present the data to others in a concrete way, for example in a tabular form which is easy to view and easy to understand. As I told you, the minimum, you must show your mean, variance or standard deviation, the minimum and maximum value, and the number of observations for each variable in your data set, so that you and others can easily grasp the nature of the variables. This was first step. but you want to know the relations between variables. For that, we use correlation or a correlation matrix. When I say correlation matrix, this means that you will see the correlations between all your variables, all the pairs of the variables. Again, data analysis toolpack comes to our help. If you click on data and then data analysis and select correlation, you will be able to perform a correlation analysis by displaying a correlation matrix. As you know that correlation is symmetric. So the correlation between x1 and x2 is the same as correlation between x2 and x1. So you will see that when you will get a correlation matrix, it is just a diagonal. Half of the matrix is empty because it is just a repetition because of this symmetry. So when you look at the correlation matrix, you will come to know which are the variables which are highly correlated roughly, or which are not correlated, which have a low correlation coefficient. This is entirely dependent on the researcher's view. For example, some people may think that a correlation of 0.6 is high, and some people may think 0.4 is high. So it depends. There is no hard and fast rule. Similarly, you may test the significance of the correlations. And if you have a correlation matrix, it gives you an overview of the relationships between the variables. Negative correlation will indicate inverse relationship, and positive correlation will show that maybe the variables are directly related. There is no question of dependent or independent variable in correlations. For example, I request you to look at the slide where we show that we have selected the correlation in the data analysis window. You click on data analysis in the data ribbon and select correlation and click OK. You will be presented with a window with a field called input range. This is again input range of the variables you will select. There is no question of dependent or independent. So you have a single input range. All the variables lie between cell B4 and F78. That is 74 observations in this case, and one row for the labels, as we have checked labels in the first row. We are requiring to display the results in a new worksheet. As you see, we have another option, output range and new workbook as well. You can use them, but presently you can check new worksheet and click OK. You will get a regression matrix. The regression matrix that you are seeing shows that the correlation in the diagonal is 1. Obviously, this should be 1 because the first one is the correlation between price and price itself. This should be 1. Similarly, MPG, which is mileage per gallon, and MPG, it is 1. So you get 1 in the diagonal. You see that the upper diagonal is empty because the upper diagonal is just a mirror image of the lower diagonal because correlation is symmetric. For example, correlation between price and MPG, price in the above column and MPG in the row is minus 0.4686. If you look into the second column under MPG, the cell is empty. So basically here the value of correlation between MPG and price, which should be again minus 0.4686. This is a repetition, so we usually display the correlation matrices in a diagonal like this. So you will observe in research papers that after presenting summary statistics, normally the researchers present the correlation matrix or tell you something about the correlation structure of their data set or variables. So this is a necessary step, and it helps you to understand about the interaction or relationship between different variables. After presenting your summary statistics and correlation, the next step may be to perform some or to present some graphs or charts. You are familiar with scatter diagram. It helps you to understand the nature of relationship between variables. On a scatter plot, for example, you have the dots that represent the relationship between the corresponding pairs of x and y. So a pair of x and y is represented by a dot. So in this case, you will have in the scatter diagram a view of the nature of relationship, whether it is linear or quadratic or exponential. So you have different functional forms. So the first step in graphs may be to have a scatter plot or a scatter plot matrix, which shows various scatter plots of pairs of variables. So you have various software, and they are very powerful, that display various types of charts. But presently, as you are going through Excel, you have a very easy to use graphical interface in Microsoft Excel. You will say insert, and then you will see that you have column, line, pie, bar, and area, and scatter diagrams and other charts as well. A lot of charts. You just start playing with them and you will come to know how to display charts. But normally, to start with, I would advise you to display histograms and scatter diagrams for your variables. Histogram will help you, or bar charts also will help you to know about the type of distribution in your data, whether it is normally distributed or no. You may have a line plot over the histogram, superimposed over the histogram. You may have a scatter plot or a scatter plot matrix. So if you refer to Microsoft Excel help, you can easily understand how to display charts with help of Microsoft Excel. So this is the third step. So again, I remind you, first you presented a summary statistics, and then you presented a correlation matrix. If you are doing as I'm saying, whenever you write a research paper, this is the bare minimum that you should present. And then you may have some charts or diagrams or graphs that further enlighten the reader about the relationship between different variables. So the basic chart patterns that you may display include scatter diagram with imposed lines or line plots, and then you have pie charts, you have histograms, you have bar charts, and many more. But these are the few examples of what type of charts you can present. So details are out of the scope of the lecture, but you refer to or start just playing with Microsoft Excel by insert and clicking on some type of chart and trying to display the chart. That would be easy for you. Now we'll learn how to present the regression results. If you have performed regression, you have raw tables. For example, if you use the data analysis tool pack in Microsoft Excel, you will be able to have basic regression statistics like t values, f values, r square, standard errors, etc. and the p values, obviously the values of the coefficients. Now what and how to present them in a paper or in your thesis or in your term paper, anywhere. So there are specific traditions in research. The normal research paper will include in tabular form, nicely presented. At the top you will show the dependent variable in the regression, and then on the left you will have a list of the independent variables, and then a column showing the values of the coefficients. Some people include the intercept at the top, and some people include the intercept or constant at the bottom of the table. Doesn't matter wherever you display that. And then you have standard errors. You also may indicate the significance of the coefficients by putting some sign in front of the coefficients like asterisk, or say another signs or symbols that show what is the level of significance at which the variable or coefficient is significant, at 5% or 1% or 10%. And you will have a footnote which will show what symbol represents which level of significance. You may also display the value of r square, which is the coefficient of determination, to show the explanatory power of the model. You may also display the f statistic, which shows an indication of the goodness of fit, and the t values. So there are two ways to present the t values. First, you may present the t values in parentheses below the coefficient, as you will be seeing in some examples. So normally we have the coefficient values and some kind of symbol that represents the level of significance at which the beta coefficients are significant. And below the coefficient, in the same cell, you may have in parentheses the value of t statistic. Some people also in a next column report the p values. Now you can see different types of presentations of the regression in different research papers. We have different standards, but these are the usual necessary things that we must indicate. So you have necessarily the number of observations, the f and t statistic, the r square, the dependent variable, list of independent variables, their values of the coefficient, some information on their significance status, and optionally some information on the t statistic. If you perform some additional tests, you may also report their values. So this is a basic structure of any research output where you get your results through multiple or simple regression. In the slide, you would be seeing an example of a data sheet or table that shows 3 different models. As you are seeing, model 1, 2, and 3. Below you see we have written read, this is the dependent variable. On the left side, you are seeing right, maths and science, social studies, etc. and constant. This is the intercept. So these are the list of independent variables. So the first value is 0.646. This is the value of the coefficient. As you see, below this value, you have 10.47 in parentheses. This is the t statistic. As you can see in the almost the end of the table, absolute value of t statistic in parentheses. And you see two symbols indicating level of significance. For example, two statistics show the significance at 1% level, as indicated at the bottom of the table. This is model 1. So you have in model 1 only one independent variable, that is right, and second value 18.162 is the coefficient or the intercept. In model 2, you see that we have values in front of right and mathematics both. So this was a regression that performed read as a dependent variable and regressed the value read on right and mathematics. We have no concern at the moment what is right and math, these are just variables. And then you have the constants at the end. In the third model, you see that all the cells are filled. So you have values in front of right, math, science, social studies, and the value of the constant. This means that this was a regression where read was ran on right and maths, and read is basically the reading score on right, math, science, and social studies with a constant. You may think that the value of the constant is always displayed, but this is not true. You may run regressions without a constant. So sometimes this box where the constant's values is shown may also be empty. Below that you have the number of observations. Note that the observations in model 1 and 2 are 200 and in model 3 are 195, that is 5 less than the other two models. When you include lot of variables, it may be possible that some rows include values that are missing. So if one value is missing, all the row is excluded from the regression. So you have 200 observations in model 1 and 2 and 5 observations less than that in model 3. This means somewhere there were 5 missing values. Now look at the R square, 0.36 and then 0.5 and 0.58. As you know, as you include the independent variables, the value of R square starts increasing. Remember that at the moment you cannot say what R square is good, because maybe in cross-sectional data you have low R square and that way may be good, and in time series data you have a high value of R square but it may not be good. So it depends on the significance of that. You may have performed some tests like F test that adjust the R square for the degree of freedom and provide you a statistic to indicate the goodness of it. So this first example is basically a raw example of how to present your data. Again note, you must have a title of the table and then indication of the dependent variable. You may have one or more models at the same time. Different regressions may be run. After the dependent variable, you have a column on the list of independent variables and a constant or intercept value. And then you have columns, one or more, depending on how many regressions you ran, of the values of the coefficients that were estimated. Then you have the number of observations. Sometimes the number of observations is written on the top of the table. There is no hard and fast rule again. You have the value of R square. You may provide the F statistic and additional different statistics, but you must provide in footnotes the traditions that you have followed. For example, what symbol represents what level of significance. And if you have something in parentheses like the t statistic, which is usual in research, t values are presented in parentheses if they are presented. So you must indicate in the footnote, although these all are traditions that are followed, even then you have to indicate what you did. This was the first example. In the second example, you are seeing that you have two models, model 1 and 2. You have independent variables as weight and mileage, foreign multiplied by mileage. Remember, this is an interaction variable. This means that the impact of one of foreign and mileage increases or decreases depending on the status of the other. Then you have a variable foreign car type, whether it is domestic or imported. Then you have a constant. Again, the same structure. So in model 1, you have fewer independent variables. In model 2, you have all the independent variables. Below, you have the values of R square and the number of observations. At the bottom of the table, you are presented with the symbolic representation of the level of significance. P is less than 0.05, which means significant at 5%, and 0.01, which means significant at 1%. So these indicate the levels of significance at which your coefficients are significant. In the next example, you are seeing a large table which shows a long list of independent variables and 8 different models. As you proceed further, from model 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, the number of independent variables is increasing. So you can play with the regression, and you can exclude or include variables and see what happens. For example, if you include a variable, what happens to the previous variable's coefficients? Do they change a lot? Is the estimation robust or no? So you can include and exclude variables, but it is good to present all of your tries that you have made to show that what happens when we include a specific variable. So at the end, you have constants with all of them. You have degrees of freedom, which were not shown in the previous tables. You have R square and adjusted R square. When you have increased number of independent variables, it is wise to present the adjusted R square. Then you have robust standard errors. As I told you, when we include more variables in a regression equation, it has an impact on the regression coefficients of the already included variables. So if there is a lot of impact, then you must use robust standard errors to counter the problem, to solve the problem of non-robustness. So if your values change a lot by including more variables, this is a problem. So this is why in this case, when you have used a lot of variables, the robust standard errors are reported. Now we'll have a brief review of how we used Microsoft Excel to perform different steps in regression. As you know, we have 3 ways to use Microsoft Excel. First, we have some basic functions or formulas like intercept and slope and some others which we'll be discussing in a while. And then you have a command called or a function called line_st, which was very good, and it performs regressions for up to 50 variables. And we also used data analysis tool pack, which shows how we can use this tool pack to perform regressions for up to 16 variables. So to remind you of all these 3 ways, we'll have a quick review of what we did. For example, you will be seeing the command and the use of line_st. This is a revision of what we did. Remember that we can use regressions of up to 50 independent variables by the line_st command, and the results of the line_st command are displayed in a specific way that you must know. The first row will be the value of the coefficients, starting from the nth coefficient, ending at the intercept. The second row will be the values of the standard errors of those coefficients. In the third, fourth, and fifth row, you will have values like R square, F statistic, and sums of square, etc., and degrees of freedom, number of observations. So if you look at the slide, you are seeing the command line_st with its syntax, which shows that you have 4 basic arguments. You must give the y range, the x range, which are the cell references for the values of x, which may contain more than one column. You have third and fourth argument, which can be either true or false. Remember that we use them as true. The first true indicates that you are computing normal intercept. If you write false here, this means that you are telling Excel to perform regression with a 0 intercept, that is the regression line passing through the origin. And then you have a fourth true, which means that you are indicating Excel that you need additional regression statistics. The most important thing to remember about the line_st command is that it's an array command or formula. You cannot just type it and enter. There is a specific way. First, you will select the number of cells that are required to display the statistics, and keeping them selected, you will write your formula and press Ctrl+Shift and keep them pressed and then press enter. You will see that various regression statistics have been displayed. This is one of the, in my opinion, best way to get regression statistics for more than about 50 variables. By best, I mean, if you are using Microsoft Excel, then this is the best method because you have the regression statistics that you require in one go. The second way of having your regression statistics is to perform data analysis. As you remember, we have 19 basic functions in the data analysis tool pack. We have used correlation analysis, regression analysis, descriptive statistics. There are many useful other functionalities also, but we'll have a brief review of the regression through Microsoft Excel using the data analysis tool pack, and very quick brief review. We just click on data. You have the data analysis on the rightmost side of this ribbon. When you click it, you have to give some inputs like the Y ranges, the X ranges, the cell references. Remember that all these columns should be placed together. If you have your X variables or independent variables in different places, it will cause a problem. Another thing to remember is that you can do this for a maximum of 16 independent variables. You are seeing a graphical representation of how to use it. So when you click, you have a regression table which shows in a standard way almost all the regression statistics that you require. Remember that in the line ST, you had different regression statistics with the exception of T statistic, which you need to calculate yourself. But in the data analysis tool pack, you not only have the T and F statistics, you also have the significance values. And you can easily compare different coefficients, whether they are significant or no, based on their P values. Remember that P value is the level of significance at which your calculated statistic is larger than the table standard statistic. The third way to use Microsoft Excel to perform regressions is to use separate formula or functions. In these separate formulas and functions, you may include intercept, slope, trend and forecast, and some other formulas and functions. For example, intercept computes the intercept or the value A in your regression equation y is equal to A plus bx. Remember that Microsoft Excel writes the regression equation as mx plus c. So what you call A is the c in Microsoft Excel, and m is the slope coefficient that you indicate by the alphabet B or beta. The slope function computes the slope coefficient. You have to provide your y range and x values. The formula trend and forecast basically do the same thing. They provide you with the estimated or fitted value of the dependent variable based on a straight line or simple linear regression. So you have other formula and functions as well. But as you see, we have three ways of using Microsoft Excel. One, use the data analysis tool pack. This is the best way if you have fewer than 16 independent variables. If you don't have the analysis tool pack installed and you want a quick regression or regression statistics, use the line ST. If you are interested in only specific statistics like only the slope, you can use the functions like slope, intercept, trend, forecast. So if you practice in Microsoft Excel, you will become more familiar with all this. And if you don't practice, you will forget all of them. As now you have gone through several lectures on regression analysis and related work, so it would be good to have a brief review of basic steps involved in regression. I distributed them in 3 basic steps. Some things must be performed even before you perform the regression. Some things are part of the regression analysis, and there are post-regression steps to be taken as well. So I'll have a brief review of all of them. So basically अगर आप regression के बारे में सोचें तो उससे पहले regression specify करने से पहले आपको ये सोचना चाहिए कि variables कौन से अहम हैं, किसको include करना चाहिए, कौन सी theory इस रिलेशनशिप पे रोशनी डाल सकती है, किस थ्योरी की हेल्प से आप अपना मॉडल बनाएंगे. उस मॉडल को प्रेजेंट करने से भी पहले कुछ स्टेप्स हैं जो आपको परफॉर्म करना चाहिए जब आप पहली दफ़ा कोई पेपर लिखेंगे या रिसर्च करेंगे या इवन प्रैक्टिस करेंगे. सो जब भी आपके पास कोई डाटा सेट हो, आप पहले डाटा को जानेंगे, और डाटा को जानने के लिए आपके पास सबसे पहले समरी स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं जो आपको परफॉर्म करने चाहिए. जैसे आप जानते हैं बहुत सी स्टैटिस्टिक्स हैं जो कंप्यूट हो सकती हैं, लेकिन अगर आप मीन, स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन, منیمم ویلیو، میکسیمم ویلیو، نمبر آف آبزرویشنز اور بعض کیسز میں کرٹوسز اور سکیونیس رپورٹ کر دیں تو یہ مناسب ہوگا. یہ آپ دو وجوہات سے کرتے ہیں. ایک اپنے لیے، جب آپ ریسرچ کر رہے ہیں تو ڈیٹا کو جاننے کے لیے پہلا سٹیپ یہی ہے کہ مختلف اسٹیٹسٹکس لے کر ڈیٹا کے بارے میں معلومات حاصل کریں. دوسرا مقصد یہ ہے کہ آپ دوسروں کو بھی بتائیں کہ یہ ڈیٹا اس نیچر کا ہے، اس میں یہ ویریبلز موجود ہیں، یہ ان کی رینج ہے. تو اس سے آپ کو انڈیویجول ویریبلز کے بارے میں کچھ آگاہی ہوتی ہے. تو یہ ابھی پہلا سٹیپ ہے. ڈسکرپٹیو اسٹیٹسٹکس کے بعد، جس میں آپ نے انڈیویجول ویریبلز کی نیچر کو تھوڑا سا دیکھنے کی کوشش کی، یو دین موو ٹو ریلیشن شپ بٹوین ویریبلز، اور اس میں سب سے پہلا سٹیپ ہے کوریلیشن. اسی لیے میں نے آپ کو بتایا کہ ہم ایک کوریلیشن میٹرکس ضرور نارملی پریزنٹ کرتے ہیں ایک ڈائگنل کی صورت میں، کیونکہ ریگریشن میں کوریلیشنز جو ہیں وہ سیمیٹرک ہوتی ہیں. سو آپ ایک کوریلیشن میٹرکس پریزنٹ کرتے ہیں جس کا مقصد یہ ہے کہ ہر ویریبل کی کسی باقی ویریبلس کے ساتھ جو کوریلیشن کوفیشنٹ ہے وہ ڈسپلے ہو جائے، تھوڑا سا ہمیں اندازہ ہو جائے کہ ان میں نیگیٹو ایسوسیشن ہے یا ڈائریکٹلی ریلیٹڈ ہے. یاد رہے کہ کوریلیشن میں ڈیپینڈنس کی بات نہیں ہوتی. اس میں ہم یہ نہیں دیکھتے کون سا ویریبل کس پر ڈیپینڈ کر رہا ہے. سو کوریلیشن میٹرکس سے تھوڑا سا انڈیکیشن ہو جاتی ہے کہ کون سے ویریبل اسٹرانگلی ایسوسیٹڈ ہیں اور کون سے نہیں ہیں. اور جیسے آپ جانتے ہیں کوئی ہارڈ اینڈ فاسٹ رول نہیں ہے کوریلیشن کون سی کم ہے اور کون سی زیادہ ہے، یہ آپ کا گیس ہے. اس کو ویریس ٹیسٹس جو ہیں وہ آپ کو زیادہ بتائیں گے کہ کون سی کوریلیشن واقعی سگنیفیکنٹ ہے یا نہیں. ٹائم سیریز ڈیٹا میں اور کراس سیکشنل ڈیٹا میں ڈفرینٹ نیچر آف کوریلیشنز ہو سکتی ہیں. سو پہلا سٹیپ، ابھی آپ نے صرف ریگریشن پڑھا ہے، اور بھی ماڈلز جب آپ دیکھیں گے تو آپ دیکھیں گے یہ کوریلیشن یا ایون ویریئنس کو ویریئنس میٹرکس کتنی امپورٹنٹ ہے. سو آپ اس کو اپنی عادت بنا لیں کہ آفٹر پرووائڈنگ سمری اسٹیٹسٹکس یو ول گو فار کوریلیشن میٹرکس. تو یہ پہلے سٹیپس ہیں. سو آپ نے ڈیٹا کو ڈسکرپٹیولی جانا، اب تھوڑا سا ویژولی بھی آپ نے دیکھنا ہے. اس کے لیے آپ کے پاس مختلف قسم کے چارٹس ہیں. سب سے امپورٹنٹ میں ذاتی طور پہ سمجھتا ہوں اسکیٹر پلاٹ یا اسکیٹر ڈایاگرام، جس میں آپ ایکچوئل ویلیوز کو ڈاٹس کی شکل میں پلاٹ کر دیتے ہیں اور بعض اوقات اس پر آپ ایک لائن پلاٹ بھی بنا سکتے ہیں. سو جب آپ ڈسکرپٹیو اسٹیٹسٹکس یا نمبرز سے فارغ ہو جائیں تو آپ تھوڑی سی پکٹوریل پریزنٹیشن کریں ڈیٹا کی، اس کو ہسٹوگرامز سے، چارٹس سے، بار چارٹس وغیرہ سے، یا اسکیٹر ڈایاگرام سے، لائن پلاٹس سے. خود بھی دیکھیں اور دوسروں کو بھی دکھائیں جو انٹرسٹ رکھتے ہیں آپ کے کام میں. اب گرافیکل پریزنٹیشن کے بعد اب ماڈل کے بارے میں آپ نے سوچنا ہے، کیا فنکشنل ریلیشن شپ ہے. اندازے سے کام نہیں کرنا، کوئی تھیوری آپ کے ذہن میں ہونی چاہیے. کہیں سے تو آپ کو معلوم ہوا ہوگا کہ یہ پاسبلی ڈیپینڈنٹ ویریبل ہے اور ان ویریبلس پر یہ ڈیپینڈ کرتا ہے. تو اس کے لیے آپ کو مطالعہ کرنا چاہیے، بہت زیادہ ریسرچ پیپرز دیکھنے چاہیے، پڑھنے چاہیے. آہستہ آہستہ آپ جلدی گراسپ کر لیا کریں گے. ضروری نہیں ہے کہ آپ ایک ریسرچ پیپر اٹھائیں اور اس کا ایک ایک لفظ سمجھ لیں. اس کو اوور ویو فی الحال کریں، دیکھیں لوگ اپنے کام کو کیسے پریزنٹ کرتے ہیں، پرٹیکولرلی ریگریشن انالیسز کیسے پرفارم ہوتا ہے اور پریزنٹ کیسے ہوتا ہے. سو تھیوریز، ریویو آف لٹریچر بیسیکلی آپ کو بتائے گا کہ آپ کے ماڈل کی نیچر کیا ہونی چاہیے. اس میں آپ اپنی تھوڑی سی تخلیقی صلاحیت بھی شامل کر سکتے ہیں، کوئی نئی بات بتا سکتے ہیں، یہ آپ کا کنٹریبیوشن ہوگا. جب آپ فنکشنل فارم ذہن میں رکھ لیں تو اس کے بعد آپ ایکویشن اسپیسیفائی کرتے ہیں، یعنی ماڈل اسپیسیفیکیشن بتاتے ہیں. یہ لینئر ریگریشن استعمال ہوگی، آپ ایکسپونینشیل فنکشن استعمال کریں گے، آپ لاگرتھمک استعمال کریں گے، کوادریٹک، کیوبک، کوئی اور پولینومیل، اور بھی آپشنز ہیں جن کے بارے میں آپ ابھی نہیں جانتے. سو جب آپ اسپیسیفائی کر دیتے ہیں، اگلا مرحلہ ہے ڈیٹا. اور یاد رہے ڈیٹا کلیکشن میں ہی سب سے زیادہ میجرمنٹ ایرر ہو سکتے ہیں. اسی لیے ڈیٹا کو جاننا بڑی اچھی طرح ضروری ہے. ڈیٹا کلیکشن بھی ٹھیک ہونی چاہیے. اس کا پروسیس آپ نے اسٹیٹسٹکس میں پڑھا ہوگا کہ پراپر سیمپلنگ کیسے کی جاتی ہے، ڈیٹا کو کیسے ریکارڈ کرنا ہے، ایٹسٹرا. سو آپ خود بھی ڈیٹا کلیکٹ کر سکتے ہیں اور آپ دوسرا سورس بھی استعمال کر سکتے ہیں. جیسے آپ نے دیکھا کہ ہم نے ڈیٹا کو ڈاؤن لوڈ کیا اور اس کو استعمال کیا اپنی ریگریشن میں. جب آپ کے پاس ڈیٹا آ جائے تو آپ اپنی ریگریشن پرفارم کر دیں. ریگریشن پرفارم کرنے میں جیسے آپ نے ابھی دیکھا لائن سیٹ ایکسل کے دوسرے فارمولا آپ یوز کر سکتے ہیں. فیوچر میں آپ دیکھیں گے کہ ہم اسٹیٹا جیسے سافٹ ویئر استعمال کریں گے جو زیادہ سوفسٹیکیٹڈ اور اچھے ہیں, اس میں آپ اور ماڈلز بھی کر سکیں گے, ڈیٹا کو اور اچھے طریقے سے پریزنٹ کر سکیں گے. سو سوفسٹیکیٹڈ سافٹ ویئر کے یوز نے کام آسان بنا دیا ہے, ہم بہت ساری انالیسس جو ہیں جلدی کر سکتے ہیں, سیمولیشنز بھی کر سکتے ہیں. سو جب آپ ریگریشن کو پرفارم کر دیں تو اگین اسٹوری یہاں ختم نہیں ہوتی. یو ہیو سم کائنڈ آف پوسٹ ریگریشن ڈائگنوسٹک ٹیسٹ ٹو پرفارم. فی الحال آپ 2 ہی ذہن میں رکھیں جو آپ نے کیے ہیں, اور بھی ہیں. مثال کے طور پہ سب سے ضروری یہ ہے کہ آپ انڈیویجول کوفیشنٹس کی سگنیفیکینس چیک کریں, کیونکہ یاد رہے کہ یہ سارا کام آپ نے ایک چھوٹے سیمپل پہ کیا ہے. یہ سیمپل پاپولیشن کو ریپرزینٹ کر رہا ہے, خدا جانے کتنا اچھا ریپرزینٹ کر رہا ہے. اگر سیمپلنگ ٹھیک ہوئی ہے, اپروپریٹ سیمپل سائز ہے, آبزرویشنز آپ کے پاس ان پلینٹی موجود ہیں, تو اور آپ نے ریگریشن بھی ٹھیک اسپیسیفائی کر دی, تو ہوپ فلی آپ کے پاس اچھے ریزلٹس آ جائیں گے جو صحیح بتائیں گے ویریبلس کی انٹریکشن اور ریلیشن شپ. یاد رہے کہ یہ ضروری نہیں ہے کہ ہر قسم کی سگنیفیکینس ثابت ہو جائے. اگر آپ کے ریزلٹ سگنیفیکینٹ نہیں آئے اور آپ مایوس ہو جائیں, کوئی مسئلہ نہیں. ریسرچ یہ نہیں ہے کہ آپ ضرور سگنیفیکینس ثابت کریں, یہ ثابت کرنا بھی ریسرچ ہے کہ اس ویریبل میں اور اس ویریبل میں کوئی تعلق نہیں ہے. سو یو مے ہیو انسگنیفیکینس ایز ویل ایز سگنیفیکینٹ ریزلٹس. یہ آپ کے ہائپوتھسس پہ ڈیپینڈ کرے گا جو کہ تھیوری کی بیس پہ فارم ہوتے ہیں. سو پوسٹ ریگریشن یعنی ریگریشن کے بعد جو کام کر رہے ہیں آپ نے, اس میں سب سے پہلے ٹی ٹیسٹ یا انڈیویجول ویریبل سگنیفیکینس ٹیسٹ شامل ہے, جس کا پروسیس آپ نے اچھی طرح پڑھا ہے. پریکٹس ہم آپ پہ چھوڑتے ہیں. آفٹر لوکنگ انٹو دی ٹی ٹیسٹ اور واٹ وی کال انڈیویجول ویریبل سگنیفیکینس ٹیسٹ, آپ نے اوور آل فٹ آف دا ماڈل کو ایف ٹیسٹ سے دیکھنا ہے جو آر اسکوئر کی مدد سے کمپیوٹ ہوتا ہے. سو ایف ٹیسٹ بتائے گا کہ آپ اس ماڈل کو فور کاسٹنگ کے لیے یا پریڈکشنز کرنے کے لیے استعمال کریں یا نہ کریں. لیکن فیوچر کے لیے تھوڑا سا بیک گراؤنڈ میں بنا دوں. اگر آپ کا ایف ٹیسٹ بڑے اچھے ریزلٹس دے, ٹیسٹ بڑا شو کرے کہ فٹ از ویری گڈ, مگر آپ دیکھیں کہ بیٹا کوفیشنٹ سگنیفیکینٹ نہیں ہے, تو یہ تھوڑا سا کانٹرڈکٹری بات ہوگی. تو یہاں آپ کو کیئرفل ہونا چاہیے کہ کوئی نہ کوئی گڑبڑ ضرور ہے. سو یہ چند باتیں ہیں, جب بھی آپ ریگریشن پرفارم کریں آپ کو یہ سٹیپس لینے چاہیے. ریگریشن یہ نہیں ہے کہ آپ چند ویریبل اٹھائیں اور اس پہ کسی طریقے سے ایک ریگریشن رن کر دیں اور ریزلٹ پریزنٹ کر دیں. جتنا ٹائم اور ایفرٹ آپ ریگریشن پہ لگاتے ہیں اس سے کہیں زیادہ ایفرٹ آپ اس کو اسپیسیفائی کرنے کے بارے میں سوچیں, ریویو آف لٹریچر کریں, زیادہ پڑھیں, آئیڈیاز لیں, اپنے آئیڈیاز بھی دیں, لاجک کی بنیاد پہ ایک ریگریشن ایکویشن اسپیسیفائی کریں. اس کے بعد ڈیٹا دیکھیں کون سا اویلیبل ہے, کس نیچر کا ہے, اس پہ کون سی ریگریشن لگے گی, یا ریگریشن کے علاوہ اور بھی ٹیکنیکس ہیں جو آپ سیکھیں گے. اینڈ دین یو ہیو دی پوسٹ ریگریشن ایسٹیمیٹس یا ڈائگنوسٹک ٹیسٹ جو تشخیص کرتے ہیں کہ یہ جو ریگریشن ہے کیا اس کی ازمپشنز وائلیٹ تو نہیں ہو گئیں, ایررز نارملی ڈسٹریبیوٹیڈ ہیں یا نہیں, کہیں ایسی پرابلمز جو میں یہ نام لینے لگا ہوں خوفناک قسم کے آپ پڑھیں گے فیوچر میں, ہیٹروسکیڈسٹیسٹی, آٹو کورلیشن, ملٹی کولینیرٹی. یہ پرابلمز ہیں, یہ وہ ڈیزیزز ہیں, وہ بیماریاں ہیں جو ڈیٹا کو لاحق ہو سکتی ہیں جب آپ کوئی ریگریشن ایکویشن اسپیسیفائی کریں. سو پوسٹ ریگریشن ٹیسٹس میں آپ نے ابھی ٹی ٹیسٹ اور ایف ٹیسٹ پہ یا انڈیویجول ویریبل سگنیفیکینس اور گڈنس آف فٹ ٹیسٹ پہ فوکس کرنا ہے, لیکن یاد رکھنا ہے کہ اس کے علاوہ بھی اور کام ہے جو پوسٹ ریگریشن ہم آئندہ کیا کریں گے. تھینک یو ویری مچ.